Hi everybody, welcome back to Rachel Reads. My name is Rachel. I love to read and write Christian fiction, and today I'm doing the video entitled "If You Like This Movie, Then Try This Book." And for a really quick disclaimer, the movies I mentioned, I think almost all of them are secular, but me and my family have actually invested in a filter service. The two ones we have tried are Clearplay and Vidangel. We have enjoyed both of them and think they work really well. And so that is how we are able to watch a lot of these movies, and they just take out like any language or explicit content, which I'm so grateful for, and it allows us to enjoy a lot of movies. So that is a quick little disclaimer. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first couple of books. Some of them I do not own, but most of them, if you can't tell, I do have. So yeah, I'm hopefully going to film a very quick video. I don't know how quick it'll be. The first recommendation is, if you like the Mission Impossible series, then I would try The Griffin Heist by James R. Hannibal. This is a book I recently read and loved, and the action and suspense really reminded me of Mission Impossible because the plot was so grand and so big, and yet it was so action-packed, and there were so many things going on. It really felt like Mission Impossible, but the best part about this is that it's Christian, and there was really good themes of forgiveness, and yeah, you could really tell it's Christian, especially the later on it got in the book, the more Christian themes were being brought up. So yeah, highly recommend. The next recommendation is based off of a movie we just recently watched and really enjoyed, but that is The Sound of Freedom. And if you enjoyed this movie or have been wanting to try something like it, then I recommend Dangerous Beauty by Melissa Coslin. So they do have very similar plot lines. They're both about human trafficking, except Dangerous Beauty follows a young woman in particular, whereas The Sound of Freedom follows Tim Ballard as he rescues children, but it is a very similar plot line, and so it does deal with human trafficking, if that's triggering to anyone. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It has some great faith content. The next recommendation is based off a book I actually just recently finished last night. But the movie is Unplanned, and this is the story based off Abby Johnson. But if you like that, then I would recommend reading This Life of Mine by Victoria Lynn. I've currently been on like a little Victoria Lynn spree because I read book 1 and 2, but I'll talk about that in a recent reads. Book 2 really reminded me of Unplanned because it deals with a lot of trauma, almost like Dangerous Beauty, but it does have a moment of an abortion, and it is not wanted in any way. And I do want to mention that it's very clean. There are no details. You just know that it happened. But I really enjoyed this book, and it really touched my heart. I think it was a great book. It has a lot of beautiful faith content in it, and Victoria Lynn writes some really excellent faith content. I have enjoyed the 2 books that I've read by her, and I really cannot wait for the 3rd book in the Chronicles of Illyria. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The next recommendation is, if you like The Princess Diaries, then I recommend reading In Search of a Prince by Toni Shalhoub. So this is very similar. A girl, she finds out that she is royalty, and then she has to inherit the throne, and there's a really sweet romance, and there's lots of great faith content. The next recommendation is actually based off a movie my sister really enjoyed when we were younger, and I still enjoy it. I just don't remember all the plot points. The recommendation is Beyond the Mask, and if you like that or want to read something like it, then I would recommend Fox by Nadine Brandes. Obviously it has to do with masks, which is why I picked it. This is about Thomas Fox, who at the start of the story we see he is dealing with the stone plague, but it is contained only to his eye, and we follow him as he does not have a mask yet, where in this story, mask allows you to control a certain color depending on the color of your mask, but that depends if you're a keeper or an igniter. So yeah, I think the next 2 books are kind of a giveaway if you see the book, but I still really enjoy these next 2 books, so I still will recommend. But if you like the movie Anastasia, or you want to read something like it, then I would try Romanoff by Nadine Brandes. So Anastasia, the Disney movie, well, now Disney movie, is about Anastasia, obviously, and it follows a more lighthearted turn of events on the Romanoff family, whereas Romanoff by Nadine Brandes is a little bit more realistic. But if you like the whimsical aspect of Anastasia, then I really think you would like Romanoff. And this next one is also kind of obvious, but if you like Alice in Wonderland, and this could go for the original one or the Tim Burton film, I've seen both. I personally enjoy the new one, but if you have seen either of those, then I would highly recommend The Wonderland Trials by Sarah Ella. This is obviously inspired by Alice in Wonderland, but this is a dystopian fantasy setting following Alice Little. She's 16-year-old, lives in England, and is a very normal girl, much to her dismay. But she wishes she could be a wonder and see all these things, but then wonders are hated and they are despised in this world. So does she really want to be a wonder? And then something happens and you just kind of follow her journey. Next recommendation I have is, if you like the Chosen series, then I would recommend Land of Silence by Tessa Afshar. Obviously Chosen follows Jesus and his followers, and not only the disciples but some of the women that follow him, and then different families, and you see lots of miracles and just the whole kind of plot of Jesus' timeline. End of Silence would be great just because it does deal with the woman with the issue of blood, and that is an episode in The Chosen, which is one of our favorite episodes to watch. But yeah, it does deal with that, and you kind of follow her story a little bit longer than in Chosen because Chosen's about Jesus. But I really enjoyed this book. I think there was a little bit more development in a certain area I would have liked to have seen. Apologies for any change in this particular bookshelf and the taller book stack. I just thought of another movie book recommendation, so I quickly grabbed them. That is why everything kind of changed really quickly, so apologies for that. I'm going to move on with the recommendation that I was talking about. So if you liked A Beautiful Mind, which is a psychological academia book, then I would recommend The Lost Melody by Joanna Davis Napolitano. While A Beautiful Mind and The Lost Melody do not have the same psychological problems, they both deal with characters who are not delusional, but kind of. The main character from A Beautiful Mind follows a character who is seeing things, and our main character is put in an asylum, so that's kind of why I chose them for each other. The Lost Melody, I think, has a really better ending. I'm not saying A Beautiful Mind was bad, I just like The Lost Melody more, and it has music, and it's Christian, and Miss Politano always writes some of the best faith content ever, so yeah. The next recommendation is based off You've Got Mail, and for that I would recommend Authentically Izzy by Perry Basham. Authentically Izzy follows Izzy, and her cousin actually puts her on this dating site, and she ends up meeting someone who they have like very common interests and can get along really well, and his name is Brody. He ends up being someone really great, and you just kind of follow the romance. It's written mostly in emails and text, so yeah. The next recommendation is for The Hunger Games, and if you like that, want to read something like it, then I would recommend A Time to Die by Nadine Rennes. Now listen, I have talked about this book so much for so many different reasons, but I think this one might actually be unique. So A Time to Die is not exactly like The Hunger Games in the fact that there are like games and trials, but The Hunger Games is based on a survival in a wild world. And A Time to Die is very similar to that. Parvin is thrown over the wall, and once you read it, you kind of understand the whole wall aspect. But she is having to survive in this wild world and to fight her way back and fight against the government because it's dystopian. But yeah, they always gave me similar vibes. And Parvin was like Katniss, but Parvin is a Christian, and you really follow her great faith journey. So yeah, the next recommendation is based off Divergent. And if you like that or want to try something like that, then I would try Anomaly by Kirsten McGee. So Divergent is kind of based off the idea that they are in a controlled world with different sectors, and they're given certain jobs based off the faction they are in. And Anomaly is very similar because each person in a unit is like designed to be something, and Thali, our main character, is a musician, but it's way dystopian, and she's not like other girls, if you couldn't tell. So it's not that cheesy, I promise, but it's really good. The next recommendation is based off Sue Thomas FBI, which I know Lindsay has watched, and maybe a few other of you girls have. Let me know if you have, because I really enjoyed it. If you like that, then I really would recommend Lisa Harris's U.S. Marshal series. They both follow people who work for the government. This is U.S. Marshal, whereas Sue Thomas works for the FBI, but they both follow people who work for the government and are trying to capture bad guys. And yeah, I really enjoyed the U.S. Marshals because while there is an overarching mystery, we do have a separate mystery in each book. The third book, I think The second and third book are my favorites. I think the third book maybe even more because there's like 2 mysteries and then the overarching mystery that we follow. The next recommendation is based off Reacher. Then I would recommend the If I Run trilogy by Terry Blackstock. So basically, Reacher is like an ex-military guy, and he just trouble just happens to find him, and he's always like kind of being sucked into solving these mysteries while he has his own problems, and it's kind of like a recluse almost. It's great. But this follows Casey as she is on the run from the police for a certain reason. This series I would highly recommend binge reading because I think it's really well done, like over a weekend, because it's so quick and it's so fast paced, and yeah, it's just a really great series, great faith content. If you like Top Gun, either Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick, personally I like Top Gun Maverick, I'm just saying. But for either of those, if you like them or want to read something like them, then I would recommend either Crossfire by Lene Eason or The Crushing Depths by Danny Petrie. Book 1 of this is Lifelight, and technically speaking, it does follow someone like who is a Lifelight, like Top Gun, but book 2 is better. We choose better just because of the great faith content in this book. But yeah, if you like Top Gun Maverick, I would try this book. And then there's The Crushing Depths by Danny Petrie. This is book 2. I would read book 1, which is The Killing Tide. But personally, I like book 2 better because there is a little bit of a romance that is really sweet and really well done. I get this whole Top Gun vibes just because of the flying and like government, and yeah, it's just really good vibes. Highly recommend. Hey guys, sorry for the little impromptu clip, but while I was editing the video really quickly and just doing some rough edits, I went to grab a book for a certain movie, but then I realized when I was editing that when I moved that book that the camera was sitting on, my head was cut off for a little bit, meaning I lost all that footage and also some outro footage, which was really disappointing because I did say a lot in the outro, just talking about some more video ideas. So really quickly, I want to wrap that up and just have the outro. But I do plan on doing the favorites of 2023. That was going to be this week's video, but I just really didn't feel like it was the right video this week, so I just decided to do this one. And then that video should be out next week maybe. I just want to get all my thoughts on that. But I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope God bless you today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.